I was thinking about what I'd say. Nancy said, say a funny quip, and I couldn't really think of anything that's funny. So for those who don't know me, I'm going to say something that's maybe not funny. If you think about form-based code, and I was the form, everything had to be built to my specs, looks just like me, yikes! I don't think we want that. We want creativity, we want height, we want culture, we want texture, we want depth. Just think about using the abilities and the excitement and development and the investments in our community to the betterment of our community, and include everybody. The downtown district, the southeast, the northeast, southwest, and northwest in this decision. But we all are stakeholders in our downtown, and we all have voices in what's going on in our downtown, and we should make those known. I don't want to see us, as it's been said before, legislate in haste and repent in leisure. I want to thank the Iowa City Press Citizen for helping us host this today, and then I want to also acknowledge Naftali Stromer, or Stramer, depending on what country you come from, is our next incoming president, and so thank you. I was going to ask how many of you are virgins, but I skipped that one. There was a point to that question. But I would like to introduce Nancy Bird, our executive director, who's done a phenomenal job in our downtown district and will continue to have those next first things, speaking of virginity. Thank you, Nancy Bird.
Mark told me he was going to surprise me with his comments, and if you are on our board, you'll know that every month it's a little bit of a surprise. It's a good time, but thank you, Mark, and for all the work that you've done to really shepherd the board and really guide the vision for downtown Iowa City. I want to go through a few other thank yous. We have a lot of people that I'm really blessed with this job opportunity and to work for this amazing organization, but there's so many people that really give heart and make downtown Iowa City what it is and really own it. And so I want to acknowledge the work of the Iowa City City Council. If you would stand up, I see Susan. I don't know, there's many of you that are here, but please stand up, and Kingsley's here. Thank you very much. It's not an easy task, I know, to be on council, and you have the whole community to think about, and I know that you take it very seriously, so thank you for that. Also, our Downtown District Board of Directors, if you could all please stand and be acknowledged. There's many of you here this morning. Oftentimes I talk about, well, it's the board that guides the investments, and these are the people. So if anyone has an idea or a question, these are the people to reach out to, and they provide an awful lot of that guidance, because there's always questions. And in this community, with 1 degree of separation, you really don't know if you might step in a minefield somewhere, so they always help guide me on my way. Also, our sponsors, I want to make sure and acknowledge the fact that we do have a SMID tax that we use to invest back in the district, but anymore, that's less than half of our overall budget. Sponsors and events help fund a lot of these investments, and so I want to thank those. So if you are a sponsor and are here today, will you please stand up as well, that provide financial assistance for any of our events or initiatives like lighting. And I don't see a ton of them, but I know that they're here because we have a lot of bankers that are here this morning at minimum. Thank you very much. Mark Nolte and Josh Schamberger and Kim Casco also, it's very helpful for me to have these 3 organizations of ICAD and the CVB and the Chamber to, while they work regionally to help support the downtown district and all the resource needs that we have. So thank you for mentoring me and helping me on my way. It's always incredibly important to be able to connect with those really important organizations that shepherd economic development for the region. And then I also want to really really pay tribute to the staff of the downtown district. I'm one of many, but Betsy Potter has done a phenomenal job, and it's really a joy to continue to watch her evolve in this role. She's done a great job, and any task that she has, she just really picks it up and really makes sure that whether it's an event or an initiative, that the community is really heard through it. So thank you, Betsy. And anyone that came Saturday night knows that truly Saturday was a great evening and it was a great event. But in my mind, it really demonstrates what happens when everybody works together. Everyone, every business, every organization, every cultural entity was excited about that evening, and they really brought it. So thank you very much. Mary Bessler, who's been with us for the past year, she's actually leaving. This is her last week, but she's been an incredible, quiet source of making sure we get things done. Nate Kading clearly needs no introduction, and it's been a joy and really humbling to have him work for the organization and want to work for the organization. He's done a great job with Cosign and really all those marketing and retail strategy ideas that come to fruition. Really, a lot of those come from Nate. So thank you, Nate, for all of your work for the organization. And then there's those contractors that are really special. Robin Hepker. Yeah, Robin. Just making sure that our brand really speaks through every element that we do, and you can see those little, important thumbprints of the district through all of our graphic materials, and our voice is really heard. And thank you, Robin. And Thomas Agren, who's here today too, I'm really pleased to announce that he'll be starting a position with the Downtown District this July. We've got to kind of finalize some details with it, but will be our new Director of Public Arts. And I think that speaks to what's coming in 2018. I'm going to speak about that for a little bit, but he's been working on benchmarks and Cosign and has been a really helpful and thoughtful voice around art. So thank you, Thomas. And then last, the heart and the soul of downtown is really the businesses and the cultural entities and the library and the reason people come downtown every single day. So thank you to all of you who really have put your time and your financial investments in place, because I think people forget about how risky it is to really serve the public and the market and keep them coming back day after day. So thank you to all of our member businesses and entities. Okay, next I'm going to turn it over to Jaime Spencer, who is the general manager of the Press Citizen. They gave us some great coverage today in the paper for those of you who have had the opportunity to read it. I know it was early for me, so I was just skimming it. But he's going to give us a little overview of downtown Iowa City. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy, and thanks for inviting us to be a part of this event. Downtown Iowa City is certainly a fascinating story, and it's has been for a century or longer, and as is the case in just about any industry, ours as well. I feel like we don't often take enough time as we're looking forward at the future, as we're looking at the decisions made, to put that in the context of the past and think about where we've come from as we look at where we go to. So we use this as an opportunity to really dig deep into our coverage, and our editorial team, Andy Davis, Katie Brumbelow, and the rest of them put together a terrific feature story. It's on the front page this morning. It's on our website. I hope you'll get a chance to read it, because we're certainly excited to have covered it, to look at the growth in downtown community, and to start to dive into what it means moving forward. I think it's fascinating that we sit in this building here as a great example of how things have changed and where Iowa City has come from and where it is. We think about our organization, and 175 years ago, just on the other side of Burlington, where the old Capitol Mall stands today, was a little more than a shack with a press created to start the first coverage of the territory at that time, Capitol. And so we look at that from a historical perspective, because the Press Citizen and its entities have been in the community that long. As I've been here, it's been great to start to see, as you look backwards, not long after that, businesses that still work and advertise with us today showing up in downtown. Hans Jewelers, you look at, over a century ago, you can find Englert Theater ads that ran in our paper, and we have some of them up today. It's fascinating to look at that context. But as we dig into that, I do want to just kind of give you a snapshot. Like I said, really hope that you take the time to read the story. This is actually an interactive that is on our site now. It's part of the story. We're accessing it live on the site. And just kind of wanted to walk through some of our coverage. So we do like to take a look back and give that historical perspective. Certainly not expecting you to read the copy that's on these, just more of an example. You can go online and take a look at that. But, starting with looking at it from over a century ago, and I think it's fascinating even just to look at a picture like this and see the streetcars and what that corner looks like today versus where it was. And we think about the expansion, the growth in downtown, and it's not always been a boom, as those who have been in the community longer than I know. It certainly hasn't always been maybe a destination the way it is today at times in its history, but it's always been the core of the community, and it's always been a sign of progress in terms of moving forward. We look at the coverage, and one of the things I thought was interesting, and Nancy told me yesterday there's some question as to the validity of this photo. Although I would be surprised to know that somebody just worked this up on Photoshop back in July 1975. But it's fascinating to think about how tight and how much demand there is for space in the downtown and how much growth there is today, but to go back even just into the 60s and 70s and think how very different it was and how the community leaders at the time had the foresight and had the vision to invest funds in urban renewal in the 60s and 70s at a time when, I'm sure this is fun to think about for the developers of today, the city was essentially leveling dilapidated buildings just to make lots available for developers. Because at the time when you see that shift in the 60s and 70s to a more suburban mall, strip mall type of environment, lots of businesses leave. One of the things that's great about the story of downtown Iowa City, one of the things that's great about what you'll see in our coverage is at that time, the leaders make these types of decisions and moves to recreate the downtown, to look at what its role needs to be moving forward and invest in making that happen. And that's more than just the buildings, right? Obviously, the traffic patterns in the streets of downtown Iowa City are something that was looked at back in the 60s and 70s, making decisions on how they wanted to create that urban center. I love this photo because for many of us, even those of us who have been here for a long time, you look at that photo and you're like, gosh, what is that? Like, where did they take that picture? And as you think about how they closed down entire blocks to create infrastructure and change the dynamic of the streets and the infrastructure downtown, the next picture here is essentially taken from almost the exact same location as that and how different it looks today. Interesting to think about how that came about, the development of the Ped Mall and the real move towards a true urban center that is for living, working, playing, a more foot-based destination as opposed to a car-driven destination. As the coverage is really focused around what the downtown district's plan looks like over the next 5 years, we think it's really important to talk about the formalization of that in 2011 and the investment again in this part of the community to really structure and have a strategic focus for what this great asset and this community, this downtown center means to the larger community. And really becoming that destination, obviously, because of the university, because of great events that have been held for decades, the downtown has been a destination. What we love to see in the near future are some of the things like the farm-to-table meal, like the great block party that we saw on Saturday night, as things that continue to solidify that reputation, that presence as a true destination for live, work, and play. And so what's next? I know Nancy's going to talk a lot about that. We certainly look at a lot of that in our coverage, but what we see today is a footprint for great opportunity. We have over 1,100 people who live in the downtown right now, obviously looking to grow and multiply substantially. Over 20,000 people work within a mile of this area, so it really is a true urban center. We think that's fascinating, and as journalists, as media people, it's a lot of fun and rewarding to watch the progress, to watch it and see it grow, and to be a part of that coverage. So with that, I will turn back over to Nancy, but we hope you'll have an opportunity to read our coverage. We're thankful to be a part of the event, and thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Jaime. Okay, thank you very much. Because so many people come through our community, it's amazing that story of urban renewal. It doesn't go away. It continues to be extremely important. And as we have newcomers come into our community, they continue to be fascinated with it. And it is a very, very interesting story. One thing that strikes me is that the idea of a pedestrian mall today, very, very few communities would consider it again. It is still occurring in some places where they want to shut down 1 or 2 blocks at a time. But the fact that we have such a healthy pedestrian mall anchored to the university that is really the city and the community's living room is a phenomenal story in of itself. So I'm going to stick this back up to our presentation slide here. One of the things I also wanted to acknowledge is that, today we're here to talk about the Downtown District Strategic Plan, and this serves as our annual meeting, talk about our progress, but the reality is everything that we do is an enhancement to city services. And we try very hard to take a look at what our city framework is and work within it. And I want to acknowledge the fact that the City of Iowa City has a strategic plan that I know Jim Throgmorton has worked hard to really shepherd a vision for this strategic plan. And there was a time when downtown was one element of the strategic plan. And I think that shift from where downtown was so central to constantly work on, I think we've made the shift, and it's important to look at downtown as a solution to some of the broader goals of the entire city. So these elements here are things I think that the Iowa City Downtown District in every element is also working towards. Whether it's a strong and resilient economy, vibrant and walkable, enhancing community engagement. We certainly try and take a kind of a planner's perspective to everything that we do. We have urban planners on our staff so that we're promoting the same things with the same ethic that the city really cares about. And I think those things are working. So today, I want to talk a little bit about our strategic plan and the goals of this year. We've had one legacy board that was a board of directors that was on for 4 years solid, which is a long time for a board. And then we've had an overlap, and we're starting to engage new people on our board of directors that will transition every year. A third will go on and off. So the idea is that over time, we'll have every property owner, business owner, or cultural entity, or the representatives of downtown on the board at one time, so that all of them have really a voice in guiding our vision. So with that, we've had our legacy board and then also our new board members come together to help establish a strategic plan and really hone in on our mission, why we exist, where we are going. And one thing that I'd really point out here is the vision statement for the downtown. One thing that we had a lot of conversations around is, usually you have a vision and you're trying to reach it and it's very clear. Our vision for downtown, I think the one piece that we're working on probably harder than anything is, as you read through the slide here, thrives at the heart of the Iowa City community. I think we do that, but that it's integral to the lives of community members, integral to every person in Iowa City. And when we hear feedback and have heard feedback in the past that not everybody comes downtown that live here, I think that's the piece that we're really working towards and making sure that it is an integral part of your life. So the far-reaching renown and unique contributions and keeping things authentic is also part of our ethic, and that's part of the vision. And how we work and establishing a value statement that we're bold in what we do. I think you saw that Saturday night. It was a huge risk. We pulled that event off, understanding that one of the strategic initiatives was a nighttime initiative to really change how people think about downtown Iowa City at night, because we have some phenomenal things going on. And that was an event that was pulled off outside of a budget, and our board believed in us. We felt like the concept was strong, the demand was there, but it was pretty risky. There was, a few like sleepless nights over it. You can ask Betsy. But at the end of the day, it always helps to have 72-degree weather. But it's really an indicator of how our board thinks, and the fact that we do want to take risks, and we're not always going to hit on all of them, but it's the idea that we can do things differently if we just go out and do it. Just do it. And the three things that we do when people ask, well, what does the downtown district do? We want to make sure our streets are clean, our sidewalks are polished, that we're kind of functioning in the ways that a mall might, where you're looking out to make sure that it's a welcoming environment and shepherding that we're drawing people downtown, whether through its events or other initiatives, and that we're trying to shape. We have a vision, and the property owners and the people that live here and reside downtown really care about how the city center is shaped, and they should have a strong voice in that. They put their financial risk there, and they care, and that shaping element is something that through advocacy we want to be part of, and that's what we're doing. So this year, there's 17 initiatives, and I'm not going to go through them all, but they're in our strategic plan if you receive them. This year, we worked on several of them that the board prioritized for the year. So I wanted to kind of rattle off a couple of these, but the first thing is to support businesses through the Washington Street construction. So, the city put that out there. The construction went pretty well. We still have some details left, but that we could be the entity on the back end to help the businesses thrive and survive essentially through that construction. It's incredibly difficult to manage through that process. I want to thank Jeff Fruin and Scott Sovers and the people who really worked hard on making sure the streetscape update went well. And as you can see this year, as the final the painting on the street and the details have finally come together, and it looks really, really great. So all the events and things that we did in Blackhawk Mini Park that Betsy really shepherded, I think helped keep a focus and attention downtown that was not on construction. Because if you're not doing something else, they're going to talk about that. And that was really a big purpose of that. Bringing back creative signage and wayfinding was one of our strategic initiatives, and that has just kicked off. Nate Kading is doing a great job working with Midwest One Bank to really pull together, really implement something that we worked on last year with changing the sign code. So, we're really looking forward to, myself primarily, that rollout August 11th of, roughly 12, 13 brand new signs that will be out on the private buildings. What we hear often is that, we didn't even know that was down there. And I think these projecting signs are really, really going to help. And the cosign program itself is really, really dynamic. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. And thank you, Nate, and for all the work around that, because it's really been, it's a pretty creative project. We also worked with the city to change the waste and recycling servicing in downtown alleyways. 5 years ago, when I first started looking at the clean and safe elements, clean was certainly something that seemed like we could really work on together. And working with the city was very helpful, putting out an RFP to make sure that we had one entity or two entities, businesses that could service the alleys, and there's one point of contact. If there's a problem, we know how to handle it. There's someone on point to do that, and the alleys look so much better. So, that opens the door to do other things that now I feel comfortable doing. Having a lot of public that, they use the alleys as walkways now, having the public in the walkways or in the alleys and doing more with them is something I feel like is possible and that I'm proud to do. We established a new nighttime mayor, part of the nighttime initiative to really service businesses in the evening and to reinvite and support our night economy as an asset. Instead of fearing it, and this is something that we talked about on the board for probably several years, why are we really hiding behind something that is not a terrible thing? We just need to manage it, make sure it's safe, and I think that we've set out to do that. Nate Kading did a great job, and Robin Hepker of leading the Northside Marketplace, the Northside neighborhood, our commercial node, in a new branding exercise. One of the things when we first came in, we heard a lot about is the Northside felt left out of downtown. I think we're hearing now that the Northside loves the Northside for who they are. They're a unique and special place, and they want to celebrate who they are. And that brand of the neighborhood gives them something that they can really kind of hang their hats on. It's a different area than downtown by the pedestrian mall, and it should be distinguished as such. So thank you to all those folks that worked on that very hard. And then reimagining events to support the economy. And this goes back to Betsy Potter. The farm to street, the summer shop crawls, the downtown block party. These are the things that keep people excited about downtown Iowa City. A couple other things I wanted to make note of is policy advocacy. One of the things that we established this year, earlier on in the year, is really something related to housing. Affordable housing is a big, I wouldn't say it's a buzzword, it's a real issue in our community. And when we, as an organization, wanted to know, how do we stand on this, and how do we support projects that come through that do have residential involved in them. And I think the policy that has been established, that I think working with the Housing Consortium and other housing experts, is that actually the downtown district can get behind any residential project that is really targeted and geared towards long-term community members. That can be low-income, affordable income, high-income targeted housing, so long as it's something that we can have someone that isn't transient that wants to live there for the long term. And that's kind of our position on residential, because we know that that's something that's really needed in the community. Tenant recruitment and property evaluation support. There's been a number of these studies that have been done to help support property owners really rethink the existing underutilized space that they have. There's a number of vacant spaces that are not online that should be. Space is a premium in downtown Iowa City, and so we want to bring it all back to life. And so providing property owners with information not only just about the costs of renovating their properties, but also about the income that's possible, helps them make a decision about whether or not it's worthwhile. So these studies have been very helpful. We've worked with our architecture community to prepare these. And one of them, the private alley resurfacing, there's an alley behind the Iowa-Washington block between Atlas and Basta that is private, and it hasn't been managed for years. So through the work and support of the property owners and businesses back there, a study was prepared, and I'm just going to provide you a quick existing condition. For those of you who haven't been back there, this is an unmanaged area of private land. And this is actually looking pretty good. It's looked a lot worse, but there's a lot of cars. It needs servicing. And through the report that we did, we're still continuing to work with property owners, and we hope this is the next step for what is possible back there through resurfacing and working with the city to understand that this is critical to the health of these buildings. So these kinds of things don't happen without some investment from the downtown district and helping people collaborate and work together to make things that otherwise wouldn't happen. Oftentimes people ask about our progress metrics, and to some degree it's growth in numbers, and these numbers are all on the rise, but we have more work to do to really vet data and study it. So this year the plan is 5 years ago, in 2013, we did a study to take a look at all of these numbers. We need to do it again and really measure our progress. But it's not just growth in numbers and people coming downtown, but it's also the preservation of assets and income diversity. And by that, I mean the mix of units, allowing different types of spaces for different income levels so that we can have a mixed income community. It's very important to make sure that the city center can thrive in that way. So these are things that we'll be looking at. There's the intangibles of placemaking, and I think Saturday night, other events and other smaller events help kind of rethink spaces and give people a human experience that we can't always measure. It's the anecdotal information that's so information. I have a couple maps here to talk about recent and planned projects, and I'm not going to hit on all of these projects, but the one thing I wanted to mention is that we do have a number of opportunities downtown that are not certain at this point, and we'd like to make them more certain and work with our council to make sure that some of these projects that may bring residential or other units that are in high demand to bear But even more so than that, if you look south of Burlington, there's, we're riddled with a lot of other projects, and these are residential, commercial, hotel, and we're going to talk about that a little bit with our panel, so I won't spend much time on it here. But, basically, we have this pent-up demand for more people, for more office and those things downtown, and a lot of it is going south. And I know some of that is by design, but it is still important to continue to densify the city center and keep that alive because it's important for the historic assets. If we don't have the market there, I think it's harder for those historic buildings and the tenants within them to want to stay married to the historic buildings. They are not easy all the time to manage. For any of those who have a business in them, you know how much a little bit additional work goes into an old space than it does in a new space. The market has to be strong to continue to encourage those businesses to invest in those spaces. And what's next for 2018? The one thing I'd mention that is in our strategic plan is a look to south of Burlington. The downtown district is got a good foundation right now. We're demonstrating that we have two neighborhoods within us, the north side and the downtown. And so what's next for south of Burlington? I think our board has discussed that. It's in our strategic plan to look at that in the next 3 to 4 years or less, depending on the maturity of the businesses south of Burlington. For next year, we have a number of fun and exciting projects that really deal with enhancements. One of those is really to make real investments in placemaking as the pedestrian mall continues to be renovated. There are areas that right now are kind of blank slates. The Black Hawk Mini Park, we've received some funding from the city to pilot a placemaking project in that area. So you'll see some fun things from us this year around activation of that space. And temporary public art. This is a little bit different, but temporary public art seems fairly safe and fun, so you'll see some new things from us there. And arts programming for the alleyways. We've heard this for a number of years. This is our year to really figure out funding, opportunities, and do some real study into it to see what we can do that distinguishes downtown Iowa City from other areas. The encouragement of creative signage, the co-sign program that's coming, that'll be later on this summer, to really inform and provide a clarity of the shopping environment where people don't know stores are there because there's so many things going on, they're distracted. We really need those signs to reach out and grab people. Supporting the day and night economies, complementary retail and business recruitment will continue to stay in that game. I think to some degree, it's certainly working. Our vacancy rate is relatively low, it's 3%, but those spaces that aren't online, we are really vested in getting them online and making sure that those businesses are complementary with other businesses that we have already. And then preparing for the pedestrian mall construction in 2018 and 19. The businesses will remain open, but we want to make sure that we're helping to communicate with the public, especially as the graduate hotel. The Sheraton will be changed to a graduate hotel, and there's a huge renovation plan for that. Whether or not the hotel closes in January through the next August, that will be a big impact for downtown. We have other hotels that will open. Ben's going to talk a little bit about that. But it's an exciting time, but we want to make sure and help the communications that downtown businesses are open, and these investments into our infrastructure are critical for the future. So really with that, I'd like to hand it over now at this time to Adele Vanarsdale. And Adele is she's been here roughly about the same time I have, but she's also local to the state. And she's going to give a little bit of an overview from the University of Iowa Department, the campus planning, to talk about the University of Iowa's plans. And I was telling Adele this morning that one thing that I think is incredibly important that I know sometimes isn't the most exciting thing to hear, but mission, goals, how these things line up with the projects you actually carry forward are incredibly important. I mean, everything that we do, every event, every initiative has deliberate purpose. And it's helpful to communicate that. And Adele's going to talk a little bit about the University of Iowa's master planning process, which I think has been clarified over the past couple of years, and it was very insightful for me to understand some of that and how that works. So I asked her to come, and she's going to provide a little bit of a backdrop on that. So Adele, thank you very much.
I'm going to give you just an overview of what we're doing at the university, and I actually wasn't the person that was on panel to do this, so, but I'm pitch hitting for my director who is hosting about 100 architects from various universities in the United States and Canada that we're hosting at the university this week. So I agreed to get up early and present this for them. So I'm going to give a couple of planning updates. Nancy is correct in that over the past 2 years, the university has really been emphasizing planning on the campus. After going through an extraordinary time of building on the campus, we're getting back to some planning. What I want to go through is the master planning process, give you an idea of the core values, goals, and objectives that we're coming up with on our master planning committees, how that master plan has various layers that are part of it, including edges and gateways, university looking at identifying some of its edges, the Bikeway plan that we're working on, housing studies, the psychological and brain sciences building that's getting built at Gilbert in Iowa, the Jefferson Building, and UCC Planning are some things I'm going to touch on. So with that, just as the city has its goals and visions and objectives, so does the university. And we've been working pretty hard on trying to come up with those, but some I want to identify is image and identity is equally as important to the university as it is to the downtown district. And with that, we're looking at identifying those and coming up with some iconic monuments that might signify the University of Iowa. We're definitely working at interaction and collaboration. Some of the new boards and committees that we set up have integrated more community involvement, more involvement even with entities within the campus itself. So that's been very successful thus far. Strategies, we're looking at a lot of frameworks. We're doing, developing lots of processes that we didn't have in place on the campus to help guide, as well as open space edges and gateways. A lot of times we concentrate on just the buildings themselves, but the outdoor space and where the university begins and ends is equally as important, and so we're looking at enhancing that. Becoming more pedestrian oriented. We're looking at not just how traffic flows on campus vehicular, but also the movement of our students, faculty, and staff, and others that visit the campus in trying to articulate those pedestrian movements. Some of the initiatives that we have, one of them is the river embraced us, so now we need to embrace the river. So it notified us that it actually exists, and we need to actually come to terms and recognize how the river could be an asset for us. I talked about pedestrian ways, but we want them to be friendly pedestrian ways, something that people don't mind walking and traverses the campus. The Bikeway system. We currently have a group of folks on the campus, I think it includes Iowa City as well, that we're looking at our bikeway system, and I know that the city is also looking at a bikeway system, so we're looking at trying to have some synergy with those. I mentioned about the goals and objectives of the master plan, and it is huge, as you can tell by this layering diagram. There's a lot of components to a master plan, more than most people would think about, and we're trying to be very integral on this master plan, not just about one thing or another, but all of it put together, because we think that's the best master plan to go forward with. So you'll see some of the things we have on here: vistas and view planes, edges and gateways, pathways, art display, wayfinding. All of that is part of a really good master plan. So edges and gateways is something that I actually am personally working on. And what we've done is we've identified some key locations of where traffic enters the campus, and trying to articulate those in some sort of we're calling it a gateway, but it's kind of a monument. And there's a lot of history behind how we came up with the design of that monument. There's three of us that are focused core group that's working on this monument project. But it harkens back to some classical architecture on the campus. There's an old to the Pentacrest. So there's a lot of things on there. And we hope that this monument is something that just lasts the test of time. And so we're looking at some key locations. One of the spots that we're looking at to implement that on the star up north is the Hawkins Drive, where folks enter campus that way as a key location for gateway. The other is Dubuque and Church, up by the president's residence, is a key place where lots of traffic enter the campus. So we're looking at that. What I have an image of here is also at the Oakdale Research Park, is giving the university some sort of presence, more of a monumental presence there, in addition to a project I'm working with David on, and the Research Park folks, is some new signage, some new imagery there. So those things are all being studied at the moment. This is a picture of just a rendering that we did kind of in-house, trying to understand what happens at Church in Dubuque at the president's residence with Gateway. So as you can see, there's a couple of images that show the monument I was talking about, that form up at the top. But in addition to that, we're looking at landscape that might be integrated with that, as well as signage for the university. If you go to a lot of other universities, they articulate your formal entrance into the campus in a very unique way, either with consistent landscape at the entries to the campus or signage that goes with that. And we're trying to bring that kind of theme to the University of Iowa, so that when you see these iconic shapes, you know that you're at the University of Iowa. And these are just some of the other views to give you an idea of scale. So I mentioned the Bikeway Planning, and on the left there are the folks that are part of that Bikeway project, and that has started already. Student housing is another project. It's actually a study that I'm working on as well, and this is one of those types of things where the City of Iowa City, the City of Coralville, and the university are partnering to look at housing. As you know, the university will be opening up a new student residence hall this fall. But that is barely a drop in the bucket for the amount of beds we need in order to house the students that come here. In addition, the both cities of Coralville and cities of Iowa City understand that affordable housing is important. And so all of that plays into housing for this area, for this region. And so we're working on a study together to understand that. The Psychological and Brain Sciences Building, project that just bid about a few weeks ago, actually. And this project is going to be on the corner of Iowa and Gilbert. Currently, there's a parking lot there. And this is for our psychology department to be able to move out of basically dilapidated spaces in Seashore Hall, which will allow the university then to raise Seashore Hall. We're looking currently at the moment to make sure that everybody that's currently in that facility has a home to go to, either in the new Brain Sciences building or in other locations on campus. And this is just kind of a site map to orient you on where it is. The circle is the corner of Iowa and Gilbert. And then in the center here shows you kind of the connection of the new facility, which is in orange, and going east and west. North and south is the other component to that, and creating kind of a quad between Van Allen and Spence Labs. So Seashore would be gone, and possibly a new building site. Jefferson Building, right in the heart of downtown. We currently have about 25,000 square feet or so of entities that are housed in there. And so with not a lot of places for people to go on campus, we just do not have swing space on campus, we'll probably be housing those folks in the Jefferson buildings in the short term. In the long term, we'll have to see where that building goes. But in the meantime, we're actually looking at giving it a bit of a facelift with some canopies, improving the canopies. So it was interesting to see the old picture of Jefferson Building on the previous slide, because that actually is the inspiration that we're looking towards in order to return it to. So that was pretty interesting. UCC, probably most of you know that the university occupies a lot of that, a lot of spaces in that building, and it was a lifesaver during the flood. But we actually still have a continued need for space in UCC. And so we've been working with the developer there to actually concentrate the upper level to a more student-oriented focus. So actually this morning after this meeting, I'm meeting with a couple of groups, diversity as one, as well as student transaction as candidates to move into some vacant space that the School of Music occupied at the UCC, to turn that more into student-centered type of activities. And that's the end. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Nate Kading with the Downtown District. We got Betsy and Thomas coming up as well. We're going to take a quick moment to hand out a few awards. Collaboration really is the lifeblood of what we do here in the Downtown District. Not only collaboration amongst all of our businesses and entities within the downtown, but even more importantly, organizations and groups from outside of downtown that we come in and collaborate with as well. So we want to recognize 3 organizations from outside of the Downtown District and their collaboration and work with the downtown over the course of the last year or a couple of years. I'll present the first award here. As Mark spoke so eloquently of virginity, I'll stay on that topic for a second, if I dare. But back in 2015, our downtown streets hadn't seen open containers before. And we had the leadership of Leighton Smith and the folks with the 100+ clubs here locally came to the city and the Downtown District. How can we, for the first time, have a party on the street and drink some alcohol? Seemed like a great idea. So through several conversations and the leadership of the city and the 100+ group, we were able to finally accomplish that goal. And people came, and it was not unlike this past Saturday. It was beautiful weather, and people kind of said, "Why don't we do this more often?" And that was really kind of one of the first dominoes to fall, and led to the hugely successful event that we saw this past Saturday. So I'd like to invite up Sean Pearl and Mackenzie Paulson, who are the current chairs of the 100+ Club, to accept this award as a partner. And this will be the third time for the club does a big annual event where both the men's and women's clubs host, and it's been hosted in downtown the past 3 years. Tonight's at the actual event here, hosted at Boxman. So congratulations. Thank you for your partnership. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. We'll do a photo here, Nancy.
And moving right along, last summer, like Nancy had mentioned, we did a whole bunch of placemaking programming in Blackhawk Mini Park, and one of those activities that was just hugely successful, and we had the greatest response from, and it cost us zero money, was thanks to the Children's Museum. We threw it together in about 48 hours. The box party, the downtown box party, was hundreds of kids came, and it was just cardboard building. And so we would really like to thank them for their partnership. So if Jaime, you can come up and accept our placemaking award.
And it's my pleasure to present an award, sort of the environmental award, to the City of Iowa City and Jen Jordan, who's the resource management superintendent there. They helped support a new initiative to manage the utility servicing in the alleys a little bit differently and put that process out to bid. That's had a huge impact on recycling and keeping recyclables out of the landfill, which is always good. Also streamline things for the businesses. And then it's also, as Nancy touched on, it's had a really big impact on the opportunities for the alleys. They're cleaner and safer, and it really puts a down payment on new opportunities for public art and special events in the alleys. So we want to thank the City of Iowa City and Jen Jordan for all the work for that.
Okay, basically what we want to do is have a conversation with our industry leaders. What's next for downtown? What does it mean for the next 20 years in their different sectors? So I'm going to invite David Kieft up. He's the current business manager for the University of Iowa. He's also a board member, and we're excited to have him here speak on behalf of the university. Yes, have a seat. Yep. Anywhere there will do. Geoff Fruin, the city manager from the City of Iowa City. Geoff has served as Iowa City City Manager since August. Well, this says August 2016, but that's not right. It's been a little bit longer than that. But Geoff's a great partner, and we're glad to have him here. Our third panelist, Roby Miller, is an Iowa native and a technologist and healthcare innovator. He graduated from the University of Iowa with a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship and also earned the Advanced Project Management Certificate from Stanford University. So Roby is the sole founder of Telefarm. He has an office downtown. He's an investor south of Burlington. Thought it'd be good to have him here talk about office and the startup community. Our fourth panelist it represents the retail sector. Catherine Champion is one of the region's foremost retail experts. Prior to returning to Iowa City in 2007, Catherine was a senior director with Gap Inc., a senior buyer with Macy's and Marshall Field's Target. She applied this expertise when taking over Catherine's boutique in downtown Iowa City. She's got an amazing store and is a big voice for retail downtown. Our last panelist represents the hotel industry, which, as we've seen, is on the rise downtown. Ben Kinseth is the vice president for Kinseth Hospitality Company, is opening the new Hilton Garden Inn in downtown Iowa City. Now a vice president and third-generation leader of Kinseth Hospitality, Ben Kinseth, from a young age, has seen Kinseth Hospitality grow from a portfolio of 3 hotels with $5 million in revenue and 150 employees to that of a fully integrated hospitality company with the operation of over 70 hotels, 6 branded restaurants under multiple franchise brands, and the employment of more than 3,000 employees. So thank you all for coming. Okay, we've got a couple microphones that we're going to pass around. We have 2 of them here. So I might just kind of stand up here and then speak to you and ask your questions. We'll keep this as conversational as possible. So we've had a nice narrative about the swings of growth in Iowa City over the past several decades. But I want to ask some kind of frank questions and really invoke a conversation, and hopefully the rest of you will enjoy this. But we've heard a little bit about how much development is happening in the community, and I'm kind of fielding some questions a lot about hotels. And so let's open it up with you, Ben, and get your take on the hotel industry. And what do you think about the number of hotels that are coming online? I know there's another one adjacent to you with an extended stay, as well as the Chauncey's coming online, which is a new boutique hotel. We also have the Graduate that's renovating, the Sheraton space, and others. So give us your input on all of that growth.
Well, from a downtown perspective, I think it's, for a vibrant urban center, it's going from what I would call maybe a C rating to an A+. It's really exciting for the downtown. More than doubling the rooms downtown right now. The inventory, if you look at it, you have a 1980s large Sheraton product that's about to go under a massive renovation to a really cool boutique concept, along with the opening of our 143-room Hilton Garden Inn, and then there's the Hyatt Place coming, an extended stay hotel, which we're working on right next to the Hilton Garden Inn, and of course the other boutique hotel in the Chauncey. Just going to an A+ inventory. It couldn't ask for more, I think, from a downtown perspective. So it's really, really exciting. I think the buying power that all of these patrons that'll stay in these hotels will bring the downtown will just be great for all the businesses. So I think it's just a great situation for the downtown.
That's great. There's another microphone there, so feel free to pass it around if anybody has any comments on that.
Just one real quick, Ben, because this is a question that we get frequently at the city with all the hotels coming not only downtown but in the Coralville market along the interstate. How does that work? Do you see these as really two distinct markets, the downtown market and more of the suburban interstate market, or how do those interplay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the downtown is going to become even more of a destination because of the hotels that are coming. I think the separation of the two markets is more distinct and separate from a hotelier's perspective, from a branding perspective. If you talk to Hilton or Marriott, they'll continue to look at the market in that way, that it's two separate markets. Especially as the absorption period kind of plays out and the hotels gain occupancy. I think the downtown's going to be strong. We anticipate our hotels that'll open despite all the inventory coming into Coralville and downtown will still do well. There'll be a period where there'll be a drop. I think it'll get absorbed quickly. There are a number of other hotel projects out there that I hear about, and if they all happen, like most markets we see across the Midwest right now, there is a lot coming, and you wonder how much can come. But for right now, I think from a downtown perspective, we're really excited. And I think that, it being in a little bit different spot, a destination of its own, I think downtown will handle the absorption period just fine.
So, which I think, for hotels, the way we see a lot of those visitors react when they come through, it's really good for retail. And we have a lot of different retailers that have, different customer bases. But Catherine, do you have any thoughts on that, what the hotel industry does for our retail community?
Well, I think that Iowa City is unique compared to other maybe suburban centers that have shopping, because we have people that are actually coming here at all times of the day and night. We have a downtown that's integrated with our university. We have hotels being built. We have people living here. We have restaurants that are open night and day. And quite honestly, we have probably the most active and healthy downtown, I would say, within, Iowa, 100%, and could be debated, Illinois, Missouri, any surrounding states. And this is really a unique time for retail. People are being housed here now, and there's plentiful housing. People are eating here now. There's plentiful places to eat. And we have a very healthy financial community as well. We have the largest employer in the state located here. Our housing prices are stable, if not rising. And to be honest with you, we're at a really sweet spot that malls will not enjoy at this time. Most big box businesses are they really just take advantage of traffic patterns, and those traffic patterns are failing right now. Retail, unique individual retail is sought after nationally. It is a place where you can survive, you can make a living, you can pass a business or sell a business to another family member. There is growth. I've experienced growth since the day, not to say I haven't worked a million hours a week or done whatever and had a lot of failed and successful businesses, but there is growth, and it's important that we recruit from our community and from other communities the businesses, the small businesses that we need to support this rising population, and that includes service industries. Like I always use a cobbler as an example, or a dry cleaner. We need to recruit those businesses and multiply those businesses that are natural extensions of what we already have that's healthy. Our women's market is very healthy here. There are many women's clothing stores. Expand into men's, expand into service, expand into other, we already have grocery, into tech, things like that. But nobody here would be here unless we had a thriving economy, and we wouldn't be here, and the downtown district wouldn't be successful, and none of us would have uprooted if we moved back here to something that's like not thriving, and that's the important thing. And it is a community. So it's important that I work here and have a business here, and then I also bank locally here, that I'm also buying my groceries here and my toilet paper. I'm also buying, everything I own here, and I really do subscribe to that.
It kind of goes back to that integral
Yes, yeah.
word, making sure that we are servicing the full community.
Yes.
One of the things that, as part of the downtown district's retail strategy is to make sure that we have all the services and all the retail that people need for daily life as well. And, we also need that growing population base to be close in and walk and do those things.
Well, we do need that, but I wish the newspaper, Press Citizen, was up here also, because it is important that, one issue that we have, and that anybody who's a business owner in any capacity, the issue is that something that's changed compared to 25 years ago is there's no central communication system anymore. Except for Facebook, I guess. But so we don't have that luxury of having a newspaper that, we do have a newspaper, but the way people's habits have changed. So we have a transient population, although we may have an affluent population, it is transient. And we have to continue, like beat the dog. I hate to say it, but continue to reach out and connect with everyone that's moving in and moving out of town in our emerging communities on all sides of town. And that's what we can look to the newspaper to be a local partner in that.
Technology has really disrupted a lot of things. It's also created opportunities for a lot of things. One of the things, how is online retailing impacting what we need to do and what is happening with businesses
Well, you
downtown?
hear a lot of talk about showrooming. I see it periodically. I would have to talk to other women. But to me, I don't feel like online competes with my business, because I do also feel like the product of specialty, or the focus of specialty retailing, is to provide specialty retailing. I'm not in business to sell eggs and milk. And online retailers will always take the path most traveled. They will never do this is why the Co-op is a success story, or the Bread Garden, because they're dealing in specialty products that people need immediately, or their lifestyle assigns themselves to it, like an organic milk product. You're definitely not going to buy anything like that online. So specialty is aligning with your specialty market and doing services that people cannot do online. And it's sort of that same thing of in the 70s, the mall environment. When I grew up, the Sycamore Mall was in Iowa City, or the old Capitol Town, whatever it is now. There was a cheese shop there. There was a candy shop. There was 2 bars. There was a drugstore. It was an ecosystem. And there was a dry cleaner. There was a Dairy Queen. So we just need to get back to that ecosystem and say, going back to the survey that Nancy said was done a few years ago, do that survey again that says, what we need to be, where we need to be is I'm making up these numbers, but 40% retail, 40% restaurants, 20% service, 20% hotel, whatever that is. Go back to that survey and say, where are we today? And then go out and just honestly do a call for business. Who wants to open a dry cleaner? We can support you. We have 30,000 people walking by the street every day. We are producing this much revenue within this sort of square blocks. You can support yourself. So, I digress from online, but online for me is it's the new Walmart. It doesn't matter. It's if you want to compete with Walmart, compete with it. But otherwise, just compete with yourself and serve the people within your surrounding area.
So the other element too is that the density does support, when you have mixed use projects like we do downtown, where retail is on the first floor, is office or residential better for downtowns? And for the most part, we know that there's multipliers, that the residential population really does support the first floor better so than office. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have office in a downtown, but the economic impact is greater. It's 2 times greater than it is if it's office. So the residential piece, I think, there's a big question mark around affordable housing. And Geoff and David, I know that the 3 cities is working with the university on housing and looking at that. What are some of the preliminary conversations around housing, especially when it becomes affordable housing for this area?
Well, as was mentioned, we're working with the university in Coralville right now to kind of have a shared understanding of what the housing market is and perhaps where some of the opportunities are, where we have some gaps. So I think that's a really important first step that that we've all taken, and we haven't got to the point where we have the hard data yet, but there's been an incredible amount of changes. There's been changes in enrollment. There's been changes in the amount of on-campus housing provided, and there's certainly been a really strong growth in the student housing market. And you don't have to look too far from this building to see the type of demand that's sprouting up here. So from the city's standpoint, what we're really focused on in this particular area, the downtown and our Riverfront Crossings District, is trying to make sure that we're building smart, that the buildings that are going in are of high quality, that they'll stand the test of time, but also that we're getting that mix. And that's tough when you're in a market that has very distinct segments that are very strong. So we know the student housing market's very strong. How do we accommodate those needs in a smart way, yet still provide housing opportunities for other segments of that housing market? How do we get senior housing downtown? How do we bring affordable housing in downtown, and what's the best way to accomplish that? And we've taken steps. You know, the inclusionary zoning ordinance that the City Council adopted a year or so ago, we're seeing the first buildings come online that have a set aside for affordable housing. So we'll see how that plays out over time, but it's definitely a complex issue. I think the important thing is we have multiple entities that have a piece in it working together now for that shared understanding.
You know, last summer we opened up our West Side Residence Hall, the Peterson Residence Hall. This summer we're opening up the Catlett Residence Hall along the river. Those are our first two residence halls we've opened since the 1960s. And our enrollment numbers have significantly gone up. They're pretty much stable, I think, at this point. A little fluctuation here or there. So I think part of the importance of looking at that study is, you know, do we continue to increase the number of on-campus housing options? From a student success point of view, the data is very clear that the more students stay on campus housing, the better their four-year graduation rates are. We're also seeing more demand for students to continue to live on campus. You know, that said, we've sort of two residential neighborhoods, you know, right now. One is sort of in the North Clinton area, where Burge and Daum and Courier are, and then on Grand Avenue along Hillcrest, near the old the field house. Those are sort of maxed out. So then we're looking at, you know, working with Adele's group about where are the next neighborhoods, so to speak, of where housing can be. At the same time, we're seeing much more demand for students to want to be right in the core of the downtown area. And so, you know, I think any new residence halls are more likely to, if you look at the investment that the university's put in this building, into our new Campus Rec and Wellness Center, the new Museum of Art that'll be going up next to the library, the investment that we're making in the library. So I think you're going to see any new residence halls will be really connected to the downtown core.
Which is interesting because the more, it's a population base. Who lives downtown really matters to the downtown district's agenda, because we are working on that complementary mix of merchandise and businesses. And if it is student driven, that has different implications than if where the students live, if they're living further out, if they're, you know, living closer in, and that what that means for community retail, making sure that we're servicing the community members. I mean, we really do have a unique setting here where the community's downtown is the same as the college district. Most places, you know, you go somewhere and that's the U district or it's some other place. So those are things we'll have to continue to work on just to make sure that we're kind of hitting that balance. And the market is what the market is. You know, we have to work with where the demand is at. And speaking of which, you know, our vacancy rate isn't huge. I know that Roby has been in searching for a great place for for Cardinal Health, who purchased Telefarm, and understands how challenging that can be. Roby, what are your thoughts about, you know, finding space and investing in really office and startups in downtown and the near-in environments?
Yeah, it's been pretty difficult to find space. I think one of the key successes to Telefarm was that we were downtown. We just recently recruited an engineer, and he worked for Walmart, which Walmart is actually a really great place for an engineer to work. It's pretty high profile, but when he looked at Telefarm, he saw that he could purchase a condo at Park 201 and then walk to work. And that lifestyle was what he was looking for. So we used it as a recruiting tool. But then when Cardinal bought us, and Cardinal is a huge Fortune 21 company, and I demanded that we stayed downtown, and it's been very difficult because when they look at from just a pure data standpoint, they're saying, well, Coralville is a lot cheaper, and the crime rate is a lot lower. And I'm like, well, there's not really crime downtown; it's just students. But so it's been a struggle with them just finding, because you look at the price per square foot downtown versus going somewhere else, which makes it more difficult. And probably the coolest thing that has happened in this search for office space is that there's a lot of folks that are here that have helped us try to find space. Mark Moen has been helping us for the last 3 months, and it is not there's no financial benefit for him at all. And him helping us find space, but he just wants us to stay downtown. He wants those jobs to be downtown, which is really unique. And is also from Cardinal's perspective is they just don't understand why all these people are helping us out and wanting to do this. Like I've had conversations with Geoff, and there's like, how do you know these people, or these, you know, that they want you to stay down this bad, because there is no financial benefit to them. So it's been, and I think that's been a big part of the success of Telefarm, is that we have this community of people to help. But I also encourage anyone to go out and try to find space that, if you find someone that is an entrepreneur that is interested in owning space, you know, investing with them, even if it is $20,000 or $10,000, because we do need more space, even if it is older space or newer space. I actually prefer older space because I think it's more, just like the culture that we have developed at Telefarm. We have 14 people and 600 square feet. It's really, really small, and it's been a year and a half of trying to find new space, but it's kind of what made Telefarm, and it's been really fun. And we've used space from ICAD or anywhere else if we have people coming in.
Yeah, the merge space has been helpful for that, bringing on all those really new startups and having 13, 14, 15 new offices down there. But there is that next tier, and it is challenging. But I mean, I think there's a path forward, and I think we're honing in our inventory and working on those with area partners. I want to be respectful of the time. We have 2 final questions. The first one, if you guys can each one of you, just go through and identify, like, if there was one thing that we could all work on that is a regional issue or a larger issue that we can collaborate more on, what would that be to help support your business or your entity from your perspective? Catherine, didn't you tell me, like, if you can't answer off the cuff, then you shouldn't be answering anything?
What could we do as a group? I feel like the downtown district is doing it, and only with maturity and as we get more mature as a district. It's 6 years old now. And from where it was as the downtown association, where I don't want to minimize what it was doing, but we're basically planting hostas, plus doing a couple events, to where it is now as a really organized political and cultural entity, is important that all these people has collaborated together. And as Roby said, when people are like, why would someone like Geoff or Mark or whoever it is help you? It's because we're sort of all in this together. So keeping the health of the downtown district and recognizing the strength that it can be and is what I feel like we can do regionally. And, try to make our local newspapers stronger too. For real, like information.
I would say from a university perspective, a healthy downtown is incredibly important for student success, for enrollments, for recruitment, faculty, staff, researchers that we're trying to recruit all over the world. But I also think it's important to not pit downtown versus someplace else. And so a healthy Coralville, a healthy Cedar Rapids, all of it is really healthy to the region and to attracting people that want to move to the region in general. And I think that's important. Ben and I were having a conversation the other day, about the low employment numbers, in the area, and just difficult for new companies to find, employees. And so I think having a very healthy, vibrant regional economy that people want to move here to attract new growth and new employment is important.
Well, I've had the pleasure of working with the downtown district since it was getting off the ground, and the one thing I've really come to appreciate is the kind of the collaborative communication style that drives the agenda. So, all voices are welcome. I think that's reflected in your board makeup. You really seek to have an understanding of what the community wants, what the problems are. And then, like you said in your presentation, Nancy, the downtown district thinks big. They're bold, but they're also strategic. And, we can look back over time and we can say, this was identified and we checked that box. Parking was an issue. We worked hard to bring first hour free. The public safety was an issue. We worked hard to bring a downtown officer down there to change this. And that's what I love about the downtown district, and you really can't lose that way. You have to be bold, you have to think big, but you have to think strategic, and I think that's reflected in your plan that you presented today. But the key to that is being inclusive in the way that you collect the feedback, whether it's through your board or through the public, making sure that all voices are welcome, and you've done a good job of that, and I think as long as you stay on that path, we'll continue to identify those issues and figure out the solutions.
I kind of have the similar message. The biggest thing for us, like the downtown block party was a really cool event, and if I would have known it was going to be that cool, we would have tried to have had, a recruiting event around that too. And, I have a lot of friends that will come and visit from other states or other cities, from Chicago or LA or wherever, and when they come downtown to IOC, they're like, wow, this is way cooler than I expected. Like, this is, like, I had no idea that Iowa was like this. I'm like, well, not all of Iowa is like this, but it is that, and I think that just all of us attend those events or support those things that Nancy and her team is working on, because the more people that go and the more people that, see that on Facebook or Snapchat or whatever you do, for other people to see that there are really cool stuff going on downtown, to attract more people there. And then the other thing, and this is something that I don't do, which I need to do a better job of, I've been pretty heads down the last 5 years working on a startup, but attending the city council meetings and telling them that we need more condos downtown. I have so many people that work there that make pretty good money but can't afford a condo downtown because rent is so high, or the purchase of a condo is so high, which I think we do need the high-end condos, but somebody that makes $50,000 to $100,000 a year should be able to live and work downtown. That's one thing that we struggle with a lot, is because my age group wants that lifestyle, and even older generations want that lifestyle too.
As I think about the downtown and the area, continue this path of continuous improvement. I think, making the list and not really attacking the opportunities. There's been a great story here that's already unfolding, and continuing with what's going on. Definitely would say the population growth and employer growth, diversifying off, just not the university and the hospital being the major employers. We need to keep that promotion. I know ICAD's doing a great job as well, and working on the downtown initiatives to get more employers down here, but some medium to large size employers, demand generators for hotels. We always love the path to more of those, and that's what we would, an initiative that will continue to support the most from a hotelier perspective.
Okay, Ben, hang on to that. And then to wrap up for today, if each of you could go down and in a couple words state what is the state of the downtown? Ben.
Phenomenally vibrant.
Anyone else want to go next? Yeah.
I would add authentic and really energized right now.
Look at the room we're in. People have to remember that 8 years ago, Voxman School of Music was on the other side of the river, attached to Hampshire, and the university made a commitment. We fought FEMA, and were able to sort of separate Hampshire and Voxman, and it was really important for the university to bring the School of Music back to downtown, and here we are.
It's just a killer place, basically. I have nothing. They've said everything. We're all here for a reason. Because it's vibrant, because it's phenomenally vibrant, because of Vox. I don't know. it's just pretty great.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, if you look at the what happened in the block party, there was a fashion show, a silent disco party. I don't know what else was there? The sand volleyball court, tetherball, ping pong tables, pool tables. I mean, it was just a really, really cool event. And when I was telling people about it, and I kept listing all these things, they're like, "What? That was all downtown? That was all happening in one night?" And so that's what makes me think of downtown, and what makes me be very proud of being part of downtown too.
Great. Well, that wraps us up. Thank you all very much for coming.